He also says that creativity, by using this and other, frankly, far more difficult techniques, can actually be taught. Really? I asked him where on earth this view came from.
It can be taught. It's a way of thinking. Like any skill, some people will be better than others. Some people are better at languages, some people are better at math, some people are better at playing tennis or skiing. Yes, but it can be taught quite deliberately, quite formally. And there's two aspects to the teaching. One is the specific tools of lateral thinking, provocation, random entry, concept abstraction. Then there are what I call the habits of mind. And my latest book is really developing the habits of mind, the ability to pull out concepts, the ability to make connections, the ability to see value. So you need both. In fact, in creativity, you need three things. You need motivation, the willingness to be creative. You need the habits of mind, which the latest book's about. And you need the specific tools of lateral thinking so you can be deliberately creative. They can be very powerful. One afternoon in South Africa, one of my trainers set up a workshop for a steel company. Using just one of the lateral thinking tools, they generated 21,000 ideas that afternoon. It took them 9 months just to go through the ideas. Now that's way beyond inspiration or brainstorming or natural creativity.
And out of those 21,000 ideas, how many were good?
I don't know.
And you have very little time. You mentioned brainstorming there for brainstorming, etc.
No, that's not true. I think it is good, but it's a very weak way of generating ideas. It's
and
good.
Yet that's what most people use.
It's in the right direction. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's very weak. Just to be free and uninhibited is not enough. It's rather like...
It does generate a lot of ideas, to be fair.
It generates some, yes. But you can generate at least 10 times as many using deliberate tools.
So can you try and tell our audience then how they would generate a good idea?
Well, I'd say the random word is a very simple one related to the book. You've got a situation, you obtain a random word, and as you track back from the word in, you open up new paths and you generate ideas.
I mean, you make it sound so simple, but you need to be... You need some
training,
don't you?
You need to practice it. And you need to have the habits of mind of being able to look at concepts and connections and values, which is what the book's about. Mm-hmm.
Do you think in business we use creativity enough?
No. Business is about continuity, about doing things you've done before and solving problems as they arise. Nothing wrong with that. That's excellent. But you also need the ability to open up potential. In Finland, the company used to spend 30 days in their multinational project discussions using my 6 hats, parallel thinking. They do it in 2 days. In the United States, this is very significant. A colleague of mine was doing work with juries in court. Mm-hmm. And using the 6 hats, they reached unanimous decisions very quickly. The judges were so impressed that now in some states, Michigan, Wisconsin, there's another one I can't remember, the judge can recommend that the jury be trained in my thinking. And that's the first change in the jury system for over 1,000 years.
And how would you go about training someone in your thinking?
Well, the way we're doing in the States is a very simple video, which is shown to the jury, and then they start using the framework.
And can people at home simply train themselves to become more creative?
If they read my books, and yes, sure. It's no mystique about it. I mean, it's not sort of magic or anything. It's the way the brain works and how we can make use of that to change tracks and open up ideas. I'll give you a very simple example. One of them is extract the concept. What is the concept here? And then how else could we do it? So one time in Australia, the mayor of a small town came to see me. He said, we've got a problem with commuters. They drive into town, leave their cars there all day. People can't find anywhere to park in order to shop. Should we put in parking meters, which is expensive, and so on? I said, what's the concept? The concept is we want people to limit the amount of time they spend in a parking space. Okay. So I said, very simply, you can park anywhere you like for as long as you like, provided you leave your headlights full on. Now, you're not going to stay there 1 minute longer than you need to because you're running a battery flat. So dash into the shop, dash out again. Very simple.
And you don't think you could have come up with that through brainstorming, through classic?
Well, and you could never say you couldn't, obviously. Any idea you get to, you could have reached by many number of means. The chances are not very high, but you could have, yes.
And one of the phrases that stuck in my mind that when I read one of your books years ago was that you thought the phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is a very dangerous one.
It is, because it's the, how should we say, it's the summary of complacency. Complacency means things are going well, we don't need to think, we don't need to make changes, and so on. And what it does, it suggests that thinking is only about problem solving, and that's a huge difficulty. People believe thinking's only problem solving. If there's no problem, we don't need to think. But all progress comes from thinking, when there's no problem, making progress.
Do you see a lot of cases in business here in the UK where things could be simplified, could be made a lot more creative?
I'm sure there are. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of things that could be made more creative. One time in California, I was talking to the ecology group, about 600 people, and they said, we have a problem. Factories put pollution into the river, people downstream suffer. So using the process of provocation, PO, which means provocative operation, PO the factories downstream of itself. Sounds totally logical. From it, very logical answer. We legislate that if you build a factory on the river, your input has to be downstream of your own output. You've got to clean it up because you're going to be the first user.
And that works?
That's now legislation in many countries.
And you have this means of provoking people's thinking to get you to think something new, where you say "po" and then something absurd.
Yes.
I've always found that very difficult, this notion of "po."
It is, because it isn't part of our normal thinking. It's totally outside our normal logic system, where every statement has to be logically based on the previous one. Po is simply saying, I'll give you another example. This is in insurance in Canada. There's Ron Barber, head of Prudential. And one day he says to himself, Po, you die before you die.
An absurd statement.
Yes.
Okay.
As a result of it, they changed it. So when you have life insurance, if you got a serious illness, they'd pay 75% of the death benefits immediately. So you had money to pay for hospitals and medical care and so on, the other 25% when you did die. From an insurance point of view, no big risk, because the time between getting your illness and dying is tiny compared to a life. It's now been adopted by virtually every insurance company in the United States, changing a concept which had been the same for 123 years. Big change. That's a provocation.
And do you find that you're dealing with these very large issues, or does everyone you know come to you with problems saying, please find me a creative solution?
Sometimes. Like Iraq has suggested what the US should say. Okay, we're going to leave Iraq on such a date. For every week without any killing, we'll advance our departure date by a week. Every week with killing, we delay it by a week. So now you're not a great hero. If you go around killing people, you're keeping the US there.
And have you suggested that to the powers that be?
I read it up in the New York Times in January, yes.
And the response?
Or again, in China, the one-child policy means they're short of 100 million women. Because if you have a girl child, she gets married, looks after the family of the husband. So who's going to look after you? So if you have a girl child, somehow you lose it. Now, if they'd listened to me or asked me, I'd have said, much better, have a one-boy policy. Have as many children as you like until you have a boy, then you stop. Result, equal boys, equal girls, because that conception, it's roughly equal. On average, 2 children per family, which is less than replacement, which needs to be 2.3. Everyone has a chance to have a boy. Much better system, but they didn't ask me.
We put out a business programme at lunchtime every day.
Yes.
Okay. What would be, and we do pieces which last about 5 minutes each one.
Yeah.
What would be a new creative way of doing that business programme?
If you open up the table of random numbers in that book,
okay.
Take table 2.
Take table 2.
Column 3.
Table 2, column 3, yes.
Section 4.
Section 4.
Second word in that section.
Second word is safe.
Safe.
Yes.
Interesting. Safe. Obviously, I don't know what it's going to be.
Okay.
Safe. So, well, I think that today people are very concerned with security. Mm-hmm. So I would balance risk and security. In other words, some sections should be high risk possibility, trying things out, and the other would be the opposite. The safe, secure, preserve what you're doing, keep it going, and so on.
So we need to devote a section of our programme to being more risky, more innovative.
Part risky and part secure, yes.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.